This tale was written with distinct intentions to pull however so many of you as possible into the reality of a child. A child who finds himself lost and seemingly at odds with all of his encounters as he travels down the path of his own world. This tale is of a boy who has memories growing up, loved, comforted, protected against the ills he knew not the name of but the sound. A boy who was under the impression that he fully understood the things that he didn't have when they were compared to the things that he did have. And he fully understood the things that he did have when they were compared to the things that he did have. Now, some of you may find this tale familiar, some of you may not. Some of you may twist up your face as I narrate you down a path that you've chosen never to travel again. Some of you may get a glimpse of what you've heard about but have never seen. Some of you may shed a tear. Some of you may refuse to show such emotion. Some of you may want to cry, but because of the role you've fallen so heavily into over the years, you may not remember how. Once I began and I've pulled you in, those of you who have the number will contemplate phoning hell just to get me placed on the extensive waiting list. Then there are some of you who will contemplate giving me a few choice words to place on top of the so many choice words that I already have. And then there are those of you who will love me simply for knowing. But regardless of which sum you fall into, I'm here to bring you the tale of this boy. A boy who believed that he was found and all of a sudden believed that he was lost. A boy who believed that he was whole and all of a sudden he believed that he was fractured. An open, beautiful boy who became closed and reclusive. A smiling boy who became frowning and loathing. A boy who was once atmosphere, lithosphere, stratosphere, outer sphere, now became grounding. A boy who was once holding now has no gravity whatsoever. All because he never knew he didn't have a father until the day that he needed one. Stay with me now. The play is about 45 minutes long. It's not necessarily fit for everyone because the one that I first put in place, they may have found more humor and more joyness in it, even though it was a message. This one has less humor and more message. I went over it with a few friends of mine, and we were speaking about it. And we know that this may, as I said, miss a certain audience, but it's not for the more comedic crowd. It's basically about fathers who may have missed out on their sons' childhoods for whatever reasons. And I just feel like that message, it never gets old, right? Because still there are multiple single mothers raising children on their own. I speak to some every day. Not without even thinking about it, without even knowing that they're single mother, just thinking about what I'm saying right here, right now. I speak to a single mother every day, you know, not even intentionally. So this play that, which I'm gonna deliver on Facebook when I go live on Facebook, this is for them. This is for the single mothers, this is for the fatherless child. And I'm not a fatherless child, grew up in the household with my father, though my father may have been into extracurricular activities that kept him outside of the household for certain periods of time. He still was at home, so I don't claim to be a child who grew up without his father, because that's not true. But there were certain situations in which I would have had more access to him, especially throughout my stint of incarceration. So it was easy for me to sit down and write and feel the pain of a fatherless child, especially when I was taken away from my family for so many years. Well, I took myself away, rather. I want to correct that. I wasn't taken away. I took myself away. Yeah, that's the truth for that.
afternoon, y'all. Y'all know y'all watching 30 frames a second. It is my honor to have a young man here who is, like the credits said, if you were reading the credits, an author, a playwright, and by the looks of it, also a pretty damn good performer. If you remember the name Marion Frampton, his name is Marion Frampton III, you know that there's someone who has been a guest on the show who is an extraordinary friend of myself, of 30 Frames, the show, and everything we do. And that's his father, Marion Frampton. Obviously, if he's the third, that would make Marion the second in that trio of Marions. But we're going to talk to this young man about what his plans are artistically. He referred to showing a play live on Facebook on January 1st. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his life. If you remember his father has been brutally honest. He was actually alluded to growing up in that household and in that environment. He also alluded to being incarcerated. And we try to come up with ways to sort things out so that we can deal with our reality and move forward. With that, it is my pleasure, as I said before, to welcome Marion Frampton III to 30 Frames a Second. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us about what you plan on doing on January 1st.
Well, January 1st, I plan on presenting myself to the world, actually. I just put something up on my Facebook. I'm not sure if it's my page or it's a profile. I think there's a difference between the two. The one I got right now, I believe, is a profile. I put a play up that I had already done, just to give maybe some sort of feel of what it is that I'm about to do again. Now, I did that one some time ago, but I still had it on tape. It won't be as isolated as the next one, but the next one will be live, so you'll actually see me giving it all the way up, as opposed to you seeing something that's taped, you know? And I plan to just introduce myself to the world, not only myself, but my abilities, my showcase, more importantly, with all of that, my message.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's basically all that is.
You, once again, in the opening, you made reference to messaging. What message are you ultimately attempting to deliver to those people who check out your work?
This is going to be more than one message inside the ultimate message. It depends on who you are and your perspective on how you see me.
Right.
Let's just say that you're a black man or a black woman who's looking at me. Then the message that you're going to receive is, I feel that there's something going on with us that maybe we might want to take a look at, that we need to do better with.
Right.
If you're not of my race, or maybe you're of another, maybe you're Caucasian, maybe you're not.
Right.
Maybe you'll receive that I'm saying, if you listen to such and such and such, maybe you'll understand me. If you hear me from this point of view, maybe you can hear what it is that I'm trying to say. It all depends on who you are and how you hear me.
All right. Excellent. So, for the sake of expediency, I am a black man. So we'll deal with how I hear you, and I'll kind of let white folks worry about themselves for now. If they want to tell you what they hear, they can invite you on their show. No problem.
That's absolutely true.
You made a reference to incarceration, and you made a reference to your father. Now, again, as I said, your father has been brutally honest about his life, what he did in his life. As a matter of fact, the name of the organization, the way that they're framing it now is Black Spades New Directions. and not just your father, but we've had a whole bunch of spades on the show, and they've all been brutally honest and are attempting to address many of the things that are going on in our community today, because it's gotten more violent, more self-hating. The incarceration rate for black men is like in the millions. There are more black men incarcerated today than there were black men in slavery in 1850. Or at least, if not physically incarcerated, under the jurisdiction of,
all right.
you know, they're either either locked down or reporting to somebody who'll tell them if they mess up a rule, they're going to get locked down again. So your reality, whatever you went through, it's not only relevant today, but it's worse today than it ever was. And when you were coming up, it was like road warrior territory in the Bronx. First of all, when how old were you when you first became acquainted with the American justice system?
14.
14. Wow.
Yeah, I was 14 when I first got arrested.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
How long have you been out?
Now?
Yeah.
I want to say 19 months. That's including the halfway house. But if we take away halfway house time, meaning I had to live in a lesser secure environment.
Right, right.
That was for 9 months.
Right.
So you say about 10 months.
About
maybe.
10 months. About 10 months.
Oh.
And you were looking at tremendous time, and that time you got that time when you were not
19.
even old enough to vote.
I was 19.
You were 19 years old.
Though not actually when I went to trial and was convicted, but when I first caught this case, the case that ultimately put me away for 30 years. I wasn't looking at the time. I got it.
Right.
But the case that put me away for 30 years, I caught this case when I was 19.
Right. If you flash forward today, there's a movement about closing Rikers Island. Rikers Island is interesting in a lot of ways, and there's generally a monetary reason why the system says it'll do something that people want it to do. And Rikers Island is in the way of billion-dollar plans. But Rikers Island, when I was coming up, and I came up in the 60s, I'm 67. When I came up, Rikers Island was a juvenile detention center for trial prisoners. Today, it's one of the most violent areas anywhere in the country. One of the most violent institutions anywhere in America, and a lot of young people find themselves on Rikers Island. I don't know if you're familiar with the case of Khalif Browder, but he was a teenager when the system just picked him up and discarded him and he found himself in a world full of like gang members and guards that were gang members and brutality. And he ended up staying in there for like 3 years because basically of poverty. He was poor and he was black. Not that he had done something so violent, you know, that he didn't deserve mercy, but his mom didn't have anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 in her pocket, you know. And in New York, the richest city in America, that's like chicken change for a lot of people in New York. But it's a reality. $3,000 to people who come from my world it might as well be 3 million. And this is the reality today. A lot of our kids are growing up in this reality. When they handed, when you were 19 years old, and you take us back to this 19-year-old young man. As I said, not even old enough to vote. And he is confronted with the system, the penal system itself, and you're given time like it's water. What is your state of mind? What do you? I'm trying to figure out because, like I said, there's a lot of us now. Your story is not as unique as it might have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't unique 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But my state of mind at the time, it was what it was. Because at that point, I had already been conditioned from running in and out. By the time I caught this 19-year-old, by the time I was 19 years old and I caught this crime, I had already been to Spofford twice when there was only one Spofford. I already been to Rikers Island twice. I had already did a DFY bid, which was 18 months. I did time on the Tombs. I had been locked up in Albany, Troy. I had already been locked up a few times. That was my thing. I never really was able to even be successful in street. The only thing I was successful in was committing crime. So when I got there, it was just another part. That's just what it was. It was still me continuing on with my stay. At that time, I didn't realize 30 years was 30 years. You know, the weight wasn't as heavy because I was used to being incarcerated. And when I get to the prison, I'm just doing what I do while I'm in prison. So, you know, if there was something that was to affect me, my past had a shield around me that really didn't allow it to do so. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't start realizing what was going on till years in, and I'm like, whoa. Now, mind you, I never stopped trying to get out. I went to trial, so I always had access to filing some sort of appeal. It's only when you cop out that you give up most of your rights, but I always kept fighting, not even acknowledging so much that I'm there. I guess not consciously, but subconsciously, I guess I was, because I filed 17 motions before I was even released, you know? So I always kept fighting, but it wasn't as heavy a burden on my mind as it would have been for someone else, because I was already used to doing it.
How did you keep from going mad in that situation? What are some of the things that you did while you said you were conditioned? So there was a part of you that was conditioned, yeah. But you need some sort of defense system. You're a writer. When did that come into play? How did that come into play? What are some of the things you do on lockdown to remain you, as opposed to just like?
Well, to your original question, how did I keep from going mad? Well, I didn't have no reason to go mad.
Right.
I was in prison, like I said. That's just what it was for me at that point in time in my life. If I wake up and go to the yard, go work out, or get ready to go eat, or that was my regular routine anyway.
Right.
Maybe if I wasn't doing that, I would probably went mad. Maybe if I wasn't in prison, or I had left the streets alone and decided to get a job or something like that, at that point in time in my life, maybe that's where I would have went mad at. But being in the conditions in which was my conditions, I didn't have no reason to go mad.
Right.
I was living everyday life, even though I was into a lot of foolishness in there. That I look at it now, it was just everyday life at that time.
Right.
As far as my writing is concerned, I was writing way before I went to prison. I was writing since my father had this rap. Him and at the time, my Uncle Conrad, they had this song called Scrambling Hard on the Boulevard. Mind you, I'm from the South Bronx. You know, I grew up in the hip hop era. I was a part of a rap group when I was a baby. I don't know. So writing has always been my thing. But when I went away to prison, it developed. Because before I went to prison, I only used to write rhymes, and before I went to federal prison, it was just raps. Once I got in federal prison, I started writing stories. You know, and after stories, I started writing poems.
How old were you when you went to federal prison?
I got sentenced when I was 21.
21.
I got sentenced. I walked into the first federal prison at 21.
Okay.
After sitting, going to trial, and all this stuff, they held me for about 2 years before we went to trial. I walked into the federal prison 21. And I was writing a rhyme one day in the piano room with one of my mans from Queens. I know his name, you know. And he was like, you shouldn't write raps no more. You should write books. I'm like, why should I write books? He's like, because you're telling stories in your rhymes. You might as well turn them into full stories. And that's how writing raps went to books. I kept saying, I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna write a book. I never wrote a book. I got caught up in something. They put me in the whole solitary confinement for 9 months. I wrote a book, you know, and there wasn't nothing else to do. So after that, I continued to go on. Then I started writing essays, and I started writing poems, and then I started writing plays. Plays was the last thing that I had ever written. And I had a bunch of group of dudes, and we were supposed to be studying the play to do the roles and do the parts. But in the beginning, they was enthusiastic. In the middle and the end, nobody wanted to show up. So my reactions towards things is different. I said, if y'all don't want to do it, I'll do it myself. I kind of got angry. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I took that play through, wherever it went, I don't know where it's at. And I wrote the first one-man play. And that's the one that's on Facebook right now. And then I just started seeing, I could just write the plays and play all the characters myself. I don't really got time to be waiting on people if they don't want to really invest in the studying and getting to the roles and all that.
Right.
So that's how the one-man plays came about. But writing, I've been doing that since I was a kid.
There's a thing we refer to now, the school-to-prison pipeline. And it takes into account the fact that specifically black youth, Africanized youth, youth of color, are generally conditioned in school to prepare for prison. And the focus is not as on education as you would hope when you send your children to school. You need a certain amount of education in order to write. You have to, I mean, you're dealing with sentence structure. And now we're in a time where our community has been dumbed down so much that we literally have a generation, maybe 2 generations, who are incarcerated that have no skills at all to do anything upon their return, so there's nothing to do but go back. Many of them are functionally illiterate. You were introduced to the justice system, for lack of a better term, when you were very, very young. How is it that your literary skills are so exemplary?
I mean, well, at the end of the day, you don't need it. You don't need no education to write. You need education for people to read your writing. You could put down whatever words you want as long as you know what you're saying. It belongs to you.
But you need a vocab. A lot of people ain't even got a vocab.
Yeah, that depends on what stage or level you're writing. You know, if you want regular little, you know, nursery rhymes, you can say whatever you want. You don't need to know what fostering or prevalent means to say, I'm gonna shoot you in your head. So that depends on where you're applying it, right? Prison saved my brain because I dropped out of school. I can't tell you when I stopped paying attention in school. I dropped out of school in the 8th grade when I was in Olinville. Otisville, yeah, 113 up in the Bronx. That was my last year of school. I was supposed to go to Evander Childs. On my Facebook page, it says I went to Evander Childs. I never stepped a day in there. Now, people used to come, I used to be on the block hustling, people used to walk past me talking about they heard them call my name in homeroom. I didn't know why they was even bringing this to me. I didn't care, right? But Spofford, not so much as far as education, but Rikers Island, definitely, because I was a juvenile, and like the police used to come through chopping us on our neck, making us get up to go to school, even though the school floor, we never did no work. There was still one or two things you might sit down, do a math problem or a sentence. And then when I definitely went and did my juvenile bid in Pius 12, I took my GED. But what I also ran into was, you know, the prison is filled with the black man is this, the black man is that. And I didn't even really know what they was talking about in the beginning, but I'm listening. I'm a black man, whatever. And then getting somewhat caught up in that, you gotta read now. Not because somebody says, but because you wanna know, right? Or they say, if you take on ideologies, the ideologies of black man is intelligent, whoop, 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 whoop. So now, not only am I in school because I'm locked up, but I'm also reading books that I believe pertain to me, right? And something happened where I just took an extreme hold of education. I'm in college now. I came home with a degree. I believe in education. I believe in being able to not only put a sentence together, but put it together so well that you actually want to hear me say more. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, though I'm a writer, my specialty is math. I'm more of a math teacher than I am. Well, I teach math and essay writing, but I believe I guess I'm equal now, but numbers has always been my thing. You mentioned Rikers Island and the young dudes, they got the Horizon House.
Yeah.
Looking to take a position in there.
Oh, excellent.
Teaching math and whatever else they need me to teach.
Excellent.
You know?
Excellent.
But prison saved my brain. Cause yeah, had I not, let's be clear, had I not caught this 30-year sentence, I'm telling you, I would have been in the ground. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know the way I was going, I saw the escalation from 14 to 19. It was just a totally different thing going on with me. So, you know, prison didn't only save my brain, it saved my life.
In a lot of ways, what your statement is exactly what I have seen demonstrated so many times. I told you I covered a forum, an NYU forum. It was fatherhood after incarceration, where dudes who had served big time in jail, and their kids were being raised without parents on the outside, and their parents were incarcerated. So there's a lot of scorn and ridicule that tends to make kids harder on the outside, you know, and can have a tremendous negative effect on the whole family structure. And they told me a lot of things. I learned a lot of things that I had not thought of. But one of the things that struck me was that a lot of the men who were incarcerated and had children on the outside got their education while inside. One brother went in the joint when he was like 19 years old. He's a PhD now. He's the dude that was leading the thing. He was raised by his mother alone, you know. So a lot of things that you were saying in your play hit home on a personal level. All of these things are real. But I couldn't help but think to myself, how messed up that is that we have to go in and be incarcerated to get the educational opportunities, and on the outside, everything, the education system itself is geared toward making sure you are incarcerated. So it's like we're in a damned if you do, damned. It's like our whole destiny is the strings are being pulled by a Machiavellian type force that we don't even get to see because somebody else seems to be controlling the vertical and the horizontal. I've had a lot of kids. I couldn't keep them in school. As a matter of, the whole, we talked about rules, but the streets have rules. and the streets point can point a young person in certain directions, and the street a lot of times shows a disdain for doing things that it sees as weakness. One of those things is going to school, getting an education. Are we just slaves to that destiny, or is it possible to break that, or because you got yours inside, and you went inside as a very young man, and you coming out and you're doing big things now. So you know, and you're still young. I'm old, so give me some insight on this thing.
I mean, at the end of the day, truth be told, maybe not verbally, but school is frowned upon on the inside too. That you don't get no pats on the back from nobody on the yard, well, the majority of the yard, because you in school. If you want to educate yourself, especially inside prison, that's something that you're going to have to do on your own. Let me tell you what's going on in the education system inside prison. First of all, you'll be lucky if out of 10 teachers, 3 care. That's first. And out of all 10, they're all gonna hire us to do their job for them. Like I said, maybe 3 care, right? Now, whether they hiring us because they're lazy or whether they're hiring us because we get through to ourselves more than they would, the job has still been turned over to us to educate us. They don't care whether you read or write. When I was teaching inside, I was lucky if I had 6 or 7 math books for 25 people. Education, whether it's on the inside or outside, that's something that you're gonna have to want on your own. Even when I was on the island or I was up north, like, I've ran into individual teachers who definitely wanna help you and they definitely wanna do something for you. But mind you, you in the midst of us where who cares who Malcolm is? Who cares what the square root of this is? Who cares what's the formula for that and that? Who cares what's a verb and that? No one cares because none of that's immediate. None of that's gonna do nothing for us right now. Had I not wanted to learn, and I'm telling you, I wanted to learn because the books I read said that I'm a black man and I'm intelligent. This is the ideology I adopted, not on my own, but on my own. So I'm like, hold up, oh yeah? I've had police tell me that some police worry more about me being too smart than going back to crime.
Right.
You dig?
That makes you dangerous. Crime don't make you dangerous. Crime makes you malleable. They can control you. They can control the vertical and the horizontal. Being intelligent and having control of your own mind makes you dangerous to everyone.
Make you a target, truth be told. How do we fix that? You know something, I have absolutely no idea. It seems like it's so how do we educate them? That's what I plan on doing with my plays. Because I know I can't get them to sit down and write an essay or do a math problem, but I can get them to sit down and listen to me. If I get on there and take on 2, 3 different voices, giving out this, that, and that. Because I never write anything that says absolutely nothing. I never write that. Right. Anything that I write, any time I touch a pen, I wrote something yesterday with one of my female friends, and we was talking about liars, and I wrote something about liars. Anytime that I sit down and put a pen in my hand and actually write, a message is coming out of it.
Right.
I don't care how funny you think it is. If you listen, a message is in there.
Right.
So I think that the only way we can actually get to them is through the lens in which they're focusing on, and that's the TV.
Right.
You dig?
Right.
And we're not talking about our college graduates already, because let's not act like that's not there. That we have millions and millions and millions of black men and women going through college and graduating, but we're not talking about them now, are we? We talking about the ones who don't want to read, who
Right.
don't want to do math.
Right.
We gonna have to get through to them via what they listening to, the
Right.
TV or the
Right.
television.
Right.
And we just gonna have to hope something sparks, just like something sparked in me.
Right. Right.
But
And more often than not, college in and of itself coming through the system. This is why it's like
College
a
is
damned
cool.
if you damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. But a lot of times, a lot of our people who go through the system, it's as much an end result of an enslaved mind as not going through the system. And what makes you dangerous is the combination of being knowledgeable and being in control of your own mind. So a lot of times, you know, I'll listen to people who have degrees, you know, but it's like, yeah, this is the dumbest crap I've ever heard in my life.
the control of your own mind thing, that's actually why when we get taken off the streets and put away, we do better.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mind out here is tackled by too many things. And now we in a controlled environment. It's really not that much going on.
Right.
The exact same thing is going on, but it really ain't that much going on.
Right,
So I could easily go to school.
right,
Or it's only 3 places to go. I'm going to the yard, I'm going to mess hall, I'm going to school.
right.
I'm gonna be in the yard in the morning when you're not there, and I'm gonna be in school when you're not there. That's why.
Right.
And it's not just us, that's life. So many people are tackled by so much, don't matter what race, creed, or color. The world is extremely overbearing to people that shoot. I knew I knew drug addicts who would actually get themselves locked up intentionally because,
Right.
like, man, listen, it's too much.
Right.
I don't want to go no program, I don't want to go nowhere.
Right.
Program got rules. Just put me in my cell.
Right.
Because you can actually find solitude there. You can actually make some sort of decisions there. It's sad, but it is what it is for some of us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And a lot of us, people who come out of prison, especially a lot of people who are able to get into institutions like the Fortune Society, and they're given an opportunity to be political, make money, be respected. A lot of times they believe something that is not the case, and what they believe is that a lot of the adversity that they face is due totally to the fact that they were in prison. That the lack of job opportunities, you made these mistakes, you went to prison, and it's my record that keeps me from getting the opportunities to move further and further and further. And a lot of times, more often than not, those opportunities were not there from the day you were born. Prison does give you something else that you have to deal with. But at the end of the day, there was something that directed you into the system in the first place, and they directed you into the system damn near from the crib.
We know that, but don't nobody believe that.
Wow.
There's always been levels of things, right? Where you at, that still don't exist to this day. Or you could turn on any TV, especially Fox News, or let's not even poke fingers. Let's
Any
be
TV.
fair.
Yeah,
Let's be fair.
Yeah.
The conspiracy in which we speak about that has damaged us and continue to damage us every day, it don't exist in certain minds.
Right.
It's clear as day,
Right.
but it don't exist.
Right.
So how could something that's clear as day but don't exist actually apply?
Right. Right. Right.
You know?
Right. Right. one of the things that they addressed that we deal with a lot is not just a negative, but an almost antagonistic relationship of black men and black women. And that black women tend to be the most supportive of incarcerated young men. That when you look at people who visit incarcerated men, if you look at them, the majority of which are usually the women. And it is very, very difficult for the women to like pack up their stuff and travel early in the morning and accept phone calls that cost more than they make in a month. But they're the ones who do it more than men. It's kind of rare that there are men coming to visit incarcerated men. First of all, do you think there is something that needs to be addressed between the black man and the black woman? And if so, how do we approach it?
Man, listen, this is my first time on TV. If you think I'm about to touch that right here, right now, you got to be. Listen, I'm not about to touch that. I might say one or two words, but I'm going to stay away from that like I stay away from the white picture of Jesus, right? It's too much of a sticky topic, right? I could say this, though. The women, I'm not going to say black women, but let's be clear, nothing comes before my woman.
Right.
A black woman
Right.
dookie me out.
Right.
So that's who I give it all
Right,
to.
right.
But I'm gonna say women support men in prison. You dig?
Well, yeah, that's probably more accurate.
And women,
Okay.
because
okay,
you go on that visit,
right,
it's
right.
all shades.
Right, right. I said black women
Right.
because disproportionately black men are the ones in prison.
But they got a few white
By
girlfriends.
a lot.
Right?
Yeah, they got it. They got a few white folks. You know, yeah, they got it. They got to throw in a couple of them.
It's more than a
Otherwise,
couple. I'm trying to tell you.
just to let you know that it's a real system.
But women support men.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, this is my thing. There's a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch of arguments. This, that, this, that, this, that. This is my thing about women, right? We love being here on this earth, us, material man. We ain't spirit man no more, we material man. So we like being here. Cars, clothes, whatever. Whoop, 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 everything that's material. But the fact of the matter is there's no way onto this material world but through the woman. So I always give them their top props, always. From that alone, we come through them. But a lot of those, or a percentage of those visits or that communication is also on their selfish desires. They want to be in contact with someone. It's not so much of, now, me, I was supported 110,000% by a black woman while I was in prison. One woman, and she's still standing. But, so I'm not taking away that, you can never argue that there's not nobody that cares. But what I'm saying is, as far as these visits and these cards or these letters or this financial part of it is concerned, a great deal of it is because the woman is actually looking for someone to engage herself, and she feels like what's out here is no good for her. Now, it helps, right? And we need it, but the combination between men and women, they both come like from selfish point of views. They're both looking for someone to latch on to. I can't necessarily say that the stance that a woman takes is because she's there solely because no one else is there for you. I can say that myself, but when you talk about in prison as a whole, I'm sitting, I'm watching, I'm reading, I'm listening. There are a percentage of women that's there for themselves because of the gratification they get from being with a man, right? And those really never tend to work out in the end. Like when the sentence is over, everything seems to fall apart. Do you blame the man? Do you blame the woman? I really don't know who you blame. I'm not passing the blame on nobody. But as far as how do we work something out with the black man and the black woman, man, put her first.
Right.
Put her first. Like, I don't see nothing else you can do. Put her first. I ain't saying you got to give everything, do this, do that, but you definitely got to be considerate when you're dealing with her. You definitely got to think about this woman. This is a woman right here. I came out of a woman. Now, none of this is hard because the rent got to get paid. Your mind can't be on the rent and how to treat a black woman like a black woman at the same time. It's not easy. But if it was anything that we could do, we could just think about her more. And when we start thinking about her, you know, and what she did for us letting us come here, giving us this flavor, the smile and all that, we might do a little bit better, you know?
We're getting a little short of time, and I want to get into your works, your literature, and how you move forward. But let me ask you this. You grew up in the Bronx. Now, at the time we're talking when you were growing up, and I know the time vividly because I was raising kids about your age, so I remember that world like really, really well. When you were growing up, the Bronx was like road warrior territory. I mean, it was like, you know, when they came out with, when Grandmaster Flash came out with Don't Push Me, I'm close to the edge, it was like he was telling my life, don't push me, I can't take no more of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you leave that world, and you become incarcerated. And now you come back to a world that's heavily gentrified, where rich white folks are moving into the place where they're building buildings now like the Tower of Babel. Everything is about the super rich. Apartments that they couldn't give away are now going for millions of dollars, and I'm talking about tenements. They are consuming whole projects and turning them into multi-million-dollar condos. What's it like to be removed from one world and come back to Astroland?
Well, you know, let's be clear. The Bronx has always belonged to the Spanish population anyway. That's first and foremost. So it never really affected me when I went home to the Bronx, even though I'm from the Bronx. What affected me was when I went to Harlem.
Yeah.
And when I saw all that, like literally, I was
We come
dumbfounded.
to the Bronx. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, they there. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying, no, they there.
Yeah,
all day,
I
every
know.
day, especially where I'm at. I see them.
Yeah.
In fact, you know how I know they was there? Yeah. You now have white bums begging for change in the Bronx.
Right.
That's when I knew it was over.
Right.
Like it's over. Not only are they here in the front, but they also here in the back.
Right.
So they just gonna, but it's nothing new. Remember, well, I can't say remember, but if we do the history of it, they had Harlem and the Bronx first. We was deep down in Manhattan.
Right.
And then when they wanted to come down to Manhattan, they pushed us up here.
Right.
That's how we developed Harlem and moved over into the Bronx. But I guess now they want us up out of here again, so it's time to go. The thing is, in hood term, big bank will always take little bank.
Right.
So we could sit and preach and say what we're gonna do and this and that. Ain't none of that's gonna work.
Right.
None of that's gonna work.
Right.
We don't have a dime compared to their dollar.
Right.
So if they tell us to move, we move.
Right.
We could talk all this talk and write all this right and get up and raise our hand and march and do all, you're still gonna move. Because big bank will always take little bank. Your landlord come in and tell you that your $900 rent is now $1,900. What are you gonna do? You're gonna protest for 2 seconds, but you're gonna move. So unless we are about to organize something that's gonna put us in place monetarily, which is gonna take a while, because it said it's gonna take us 144 years to catch up. Literally, this is the actual number of today. It will take the black man 144 years to catch up to the wealth of the white man. So it looks like we're gonna be moving for a while.
Yeah. What you just said about big bank taking little bank and 144 years, it indicates that you understand the nature of the problem, you understand the obstacles that are involved, and just understanding the nature of the problem and understanding that, first of all, there will be obstacles, and also those people in power are never going to give up power voluntarily.
Nah, never.
The problem that we have, as I see it, is that it is rare that we can get someone to even see the problem, to formulate some sort of strategy for doing something. Like I said, you are blessed in a lot of ways, even though you went through the same system. You were blessed in that there was something innate in you that you loved doing, that you were able to remove yourself from those forces who would like hold you in place, a lot of times through ignorance, not through maliciousness.
I don't know if I removed myself. I just wasn't listening to it that much.
That's removing yourself. I like to say the reason why I can do what I do is because I got away from everybody who told me I couldn't do it, and was too stupid to know it couldn't be done, so I just did it. A lot of us don't even have the opportunity to have a quiet space because you're confined in that space, and all of the negative noise is constantly around you, so much so, excuse me, that you don't even have a moment to see what the deal is and decide what it is that you want, not what they expect you to do or what they think you can do, but what do you want, you know? Is it possible to get people to understand what's coming, what the obstacles are, and let them what would it have taken for before the prison stuff, you know, before all of that stuff? There was a young man who was courageous, because crime doesn't make you courageous. That's in you, one way or the other. You saw it as a viable solution. But was there some way, is there some way that something we could say or do in order that we start to understand that we are brave, that there's a certain braveness to going your own way, doing your own thing, cultivating your own skills, being who you are, or it's just hopeless?
Nah, it's not hopeless. I just think it's hard, because I think for the exact same reasons that racism will never change or has a hard time changing is the exact same reason we have a hard time changing. We got all these sins, woo, 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 woo. But I read this book, Road Less Traveled. The man, and I believe what he said, the worst sin is laziness. Racist people don't want to be, they're not going to give up racism because now they got to work hard to do it. I'm going to just be lazy and stay racist. I'm cool. I'm not changing nothing. If I got to give up this, and that just to make you smile, nah, I'm cool. So even if they wanted to change, they too lazy too. It's the exact same thing with our mind. Laziness is not just dragging around with the body. You now saying that we going to have to get our minds back to where we was, not before the white man brought us over here, but before there was a white man. You know how hard that's going to be? So, you know, I don't know.
It seems to be difficult. We got like about 3 or 4 minutes left. I want you to talk only about your play, about how people can see what you're doing, what to type in the Facebook to be able to see you on the first, what your plans are, what it's going to be about. You got the mic. Just talk.
Oh, man, you know.
That's your camera right there, that number 3. and you can talk right into number 3.
Number 3, how you doing? It's simple with me, right? You go to Facebook, you type in my name, Marion Frampton. You're gonna see a picture of a black spade. That's my father. Then you're gonna see a picture of me. On the 1st, I'm going live with one of my one-man shows. I've been home for a while, looking at life, seeing things, getting into things, experiencing more things, which actually is for the first time I've ever done it. A lot of things that I'm doing right now in the last 19 months or so that I've been free, I've never done in my life, because I've always been incarcerated. From 14 till what time? Well, I was about 37 when I came home. All of those birthdays were in prison. So the last 2 birthdays I had were out here. So everything is brand new to me. And this stuff that's new to me, I plan on expressing to y'all through play form. At the moment, I don't have a YouTube channel or any of that stuff. But like I said, you could just visit me on my Facebook page. And we just gonna do what we do. We gonna have fun. A lot of people not gonna like what I say, and it's cool. A lot of stuff that I'm gonna say is really not easy for me to say because it's not in my character or my nature. But if the message gotta get out, then the message gotta get out. So however it come, it come. What I'm telling you is there are no ill intentions. I am not trying to promote or add fire to any type of foolishness, but I won't be silent. I refuse to not say anything. Something needs to be said, so let's talk about it, And I'm just giving it up the way I give it up, man. I don't know, man. I always thought I was a funny guy. So you might, you might find a few things in there that might make you laugh, they might make you cry. But I'm just coming at you with humor, intellect, and whatever else that I have that I can bring to you. My name is Marion Frampton III. I appreciate this opportunity, definitely. All day, every day, I definitely enjoyed that. And that's basically what it is.
Excellent, excellent. Well, they say if everybody like you, you ain't doing nothing. I wanna thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and your experience. We will see y'all next week. Check out this brother. This brother is a brother that's on the rise, and he ought to. He might not remember that he knows me once they elevate him, but I got the tape.
No. I'm gonna tell you something about my memory. I could go back to when I was 3 years old.
I know you can, brother. I know you can.
Hey, thank you, man.
Peace,
really appreciate
we out.
it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Excellent, man.